Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm really excited for today's episode. I got Dr. Marvin Talsky here with me, coming in from, I believe he's up in Crystal Lake, Illinois today. I'm out here in beautiful Grand Junction. But before we get into this episode, I want to let you guys know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, number one, we protect free speech in chiropractic, which I think is so important in today's era of what's going on in the medical freedom of the world. So we do promote chiropractic with freedom of speech. We also support subluxation-based chiropractic, which I think is so important. If you guys don't know what that means, go to your favorite search engine and find out what subluxation means. We do also protect and support the subluxation-based chiropractic, like I mentioned, and innate intelligence, universal intelligence, which I think are so important to the fundamentals and the philosophy of chiropractic. And lastly, we protect the sacred trust. And I think that it's important for me to give that role of why we do what we do, so you guys kind of all understand what the impact we're doing over here at Chiro Hustle and why it matters. And without any further, this is episode 425 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. And today I have Dr. Marvin Talsky here with me. And from our previous conversations, Dr. Marv's been in practice 5 days a week for 58 years, which I think is really cool. And his tonal, the Talsky Tonal method is not a technique. It's a model of application. So Dr. Marvin Talsky, welcome to Chiro Hustle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity. Do you want to start? I understand we only have 30 minutes. So how about if I just start talking, and if you can interrupt me with questions or the need for clarifications?
Sure.
So I was turned on to chiropractic when I was in my first year of college because my father had a chiropractic need, and he happened to go to a recent graduate of the Palmer College of Chiropractic who was interested in sharing the message. And he in talking to me, he talked about the first thing that ever grabbed my interest and attention, and encouraged me to visit the Palmer College. And my father and I went to visit it, and I registered to start in the fall term. This was in the spring. I started in October of 1960, just a couple months after B.J. Palmer's last appearance on the campus of Palmer College. So I started in October of 1960. B.J. died in May of 61. I think it was May, as I recall. And I was one of the 3,000 people at his funeral in the then what was that society he was a member of? Mason, in the headquarters of Masons in Davenport, which is now part of Palmer campus. And that was my first spiritual experience. So I never saw BJ alive. First time I saw him, he was in his casket. It was open. But Marcus Bach gave the eulogy, and that was my first spiritual experience. So I was moved to go into chiropractic, and everything that's happened to me since has verified that move. I was born to be a chiropractor representing and practicing chiropractic. So to cut to the chase, it always bothered me. I went into chiropractic because of the principles, and I'll get into that a little bit more. And it always bothered me that the principles of chiropractic were vitalistic, dependent on the intelligence of life. And the applications of chiropractic were mechanistic and bone-oriented. So chiropractic is about the nervous system. So I've spent years taking seminars, following mentors. And I want to acknowledge my greatest mentors are Reggie Gold and his mentor, Bill Bahan. Bill Bahan was my greatest mentor. And one of the biggest shocks in my life is when he died in his mid 50s, changing a tire. So those were the people that inspired me the most, and the growing, deepening understanding of principles. So in 1994, I did a lot of one-on-one. I had lots of interns in my office over the years. I did a lot of one-on-one. One chiropractor who spent a lot of time in my office when he was a student at National and learned National. I used to say the only thing about chiropractic that National has is it was in the name, and they took that out. So while he was interning, while he was studying at National, he was interning in my office. He spent 3 or 4 days a week in my office, right from school every day, asking lots of questions. And in 1994, so I graduated Palmer in 63. There was no national boards. There was state boards, but you couldn't take them while you were a student. So I had to take 13 parts after I graduated. And the only thing I failed in was the practical. I failed the practical because it had nothing to do with chiropractic whatsoever. It was about X-ray, finding the pathology on an X-ray, and blood values. At any rate, in 1994, my protege and student who studied with me came to me with a handheld instrument and said, I would like to make this available, but I'd like to teach it with a technique. Will you structure a technique that we could teach together? And so I taught the technique portion of the first 51 seminars of torque release technique with my protege, Jay Holder. And then I left it with him to do the basic seminars, and I set up advanced hands-on seminars where I can go into greater depth and guide people on how to use it. And I did that from the end of 1998 into 2001, when I, being a 5-day-a-week practitioner, was making further discoveries. And I found out that some of my ideas of who would come to the seminars was incorrect. So I thought it would mostly be network practitioners that would take torque release technique, but only 2% were network practitioners. We were attracting veteran chiropractors to take torque release technique. But however, I began to make evolutionary refinements in the work, and our work had diverged, and I couldn't get Jay to take the advanced work or keep up with the discoveries. He was very satisfied with what I had developed in 1994, structured in 1994. So I restructured the work and started teaching under my own name in 2001. And my mission is to help chiropractors realize the unique gift that chiropractic has to offer, the unique non-duplicating gift of finding and reducing physical interference to the physical nervous system caused by subluxation. And we've incorporated some of the latest discoveries about the neurospinal system. And so we teach these, and we try to teach a principle-dependent approach to chiropractic that is unique and has nothing to do with the diagnosis and treatment of symptoms or ailments or diseases. We don't do that. So I'm not about telling chiropractors how to practice. I'm trying to turn chiropractors onto the gift of chiropractic. So regardless of what else they choose to do, they can be delivering the best in the uniqueness of chiropractic also. If you're going to call yourself, if you're going to go through a chiropractic college, get a degree, call yourself a chiropractor, you should at least be delivering the best possible chiropractic you can. So my mission was to make the application of chiropractic more congruent with the principles of chiropractic. And we've achieved that more and more. The work keeps evolving. I am so happy and proud to have found two individuals that have agreed to deepen in the work, deepen much further in the work, and they have in the past 2 years, and to continue to study the anatomy and physiology of the nervous system and quantum physics and the principles I've added to the 33 principles. I didn't add principles to change anything. I added principles to highlight more of the power of principles and the system we work with. So in chiropractic, we work with a physical system, the nervous system. The nervous system is not innate intelligence. It is the system, the physical system that transports intelligence throughout the body. So the nervous system is that system. I've redefined the nervous system according to function rather than anatomy. So the nervous system is that system which perceives what's going on in the body, perceives what's going on outside the body, and controls appropriate responses in the body to allow adaptation and purposeful function. And it's characterized by the neurospinal system, which is the brain and spinal cord and all the structures which support the brain and spinal cord. And all the rest of the nervous system, the purpose of the rest of the nervous system is to carry information to and from the neurospinal system. So the neurospinal system is like the computing part of, what do they call that? The what? CPU. The CPU, yes. It's the CPU of the nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. Everything else carries information to and from, and the brain and spinal cord are the processing unit. So we live our entire physical life through our nervous system. Everything we perceive, everything we experience physically, everything we express is all coordinated through the nervous system. So chiropractic is about finding and reducing physical interference to the nervous system caused by an overabundance of unnatural stresses. Excuse me.
So as you take a drink of water, I think it's pretty good timing for me to ask you another question. You've been at it 58 years. You said you graduated in the 60s. Let me ask you, like, what have you been doing, I would say, over the past decade specifically to keep yourself healthy? What are some of your, like, routines or systems that you follow to make sure that you're tip-top shape?
Well, the one and only major thing I do is chiropractic. over the years, I've traveled to many different chiropractors to get the best adjustments I could. I've never been adjusted less than once a week since I entered chiropractic as a student. And now I get checked 3 times a week from 3 different proteges of my work. And that's the number one thing that's always kept me going. Now, I don't get enough movement. The form of movement I like the best is swimming outdoors in the sun, but I can only do that 10 weeks a year in the Chicago area. So I try to go as close to daily as possible to swim. And I did suffer in the pandemic when the pools were shut down. So I went 3 years between, and I haven't done that in over 40 years. I'm used to swimming 4 or 5 days a week. And being unable to swim did take a toll on me. And
yeah, I would think so. So just to share a little something that I just recently experienced is I went up to Alaska and did 600 new patients scheduled in. It's actually 604. And some of these people said to me, maybe you can give some clarity to this, but they said to me, well, why would I come to the chiropractor? You just mentioned to me that you get adjusted once a week since like day one, like continuously over your whole career. So, a lot of the people I spoke to, they're like, well, if I come to a chiropractor once, don't I have to come for the rest of my life? And I said, yeah, it's just kind of like the dentist. If you go to the dentist like once in your life, like why wouldn't you like want to return to make sure that you have good dental hygiene and good dental health? So I look at it the same way as you just explained it. But what would you say to like somebody that came to you and said, well, you expect me to come to you more than once?
My philosophy, there's a lot of chiropractors, their philosophy is my way or the highway. You do what I say the way I do it, or I won't take care of you. I'm not that way. Any chiropractic care is better than no chiropractic care. I think what I do for myself is ideal. I think so it's not a have to, it's a get to. And that's the way I treat the people that come to me. To me, a patient is someone who comes for symptom help and they continue until the symptoms go away. That's a patient. A practice member is someone who finds out what chiropractic really is and continues after their symptoms have gone away or are much better. So I'm interested in turning patients into practice members and inspiring them. I'm not into patient management. I'm into patient inspiration. And some people get it and some people don't. But I always do all I can to hold out that there's something more for them in chiropractic. And I honor anyone who chooses to discontinue care, but discontinue care with a little better understanding of chiropractic and that they have more benefit to experience. And I think in life, you have to honor where people are at and just encourage them and through inspiration that there's more. And many people return. They say, I realize I want to take advantage of more. So that's what I say to people.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I think it's really concise for, understanding that a lot of people think that they go to the chiropractor for something critical to get over it and then they're done. And I like the way that you structure it as it's a practice member. And this is something that you can utilize from now till forever. I like that a lot. I know we have about 10 minutes left of our show today, but I am curious to ask you a couple questions, a couple more. And one of those is, let's talk about the future a little bit. I know that you have Talsky Tonal, and it's the brand behind your name for what you do for the chiropractic profession. How do you see that transitioning going forward? And maybe how do you see the profession of chiropractic moving forward?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you that up until 15 years ago, I thought chiropractic was going down the tubes, because the schools were deviating from chiropractic and the practitioners were deviating for chiropractic. And it was like like pulling teeth to get people at a seminar to incorporate the gift of chiropractic more. But the millennial chiropractors have restored hope to me. The millennial, I have found that a millennial with a purpose and a passion can accomplish almost anything. And they are bringing a true renaissance of chiropractic back, those that are exposed to the gift. Now, I say that my work is not my first technique that I structured, torque release technique, I called a technique. Talsky Tonal Chiropractic, and I named it that because my protege took the work I've developed and he copyrighted it under his own name, not under both our names. And then he tried to intimidate me from not teaching the work I taught him, because it was just what was already copyrighted as torque release technique. And of course, I didn't want to get in. I told him, if you carry this any further, you'll experience a countersuit. But I didn't want to get caught up in have all my attention and energy devoted into that. He realized the folly of threatening me. And so I left him. I said, you could have torque release technique just the way it is. I won't interfere with you. And I'm going to teach under my own name. That's why I chose my own name, because someone can't say it's their work if it has my name on it. And but when I teach, I give it freely, and I give it freely. I give patient educational material I've developed as part of the notes. I said, it's yours. You can't teach and give something and say, you can't use it because it's mine. I think that's one of the terrible things that's happened in the profession. And if you have a contribution to give it. I mean, music, the field of music, what's called classical music or serious music, they build on each other. It's you honor the contributions of others before you, and you build on it. One of the best things to do, one of the most the greatest homage, is to take somebody's work and produce variations of it and put that out. I mean, it's honored in music. Why not honor it in chiropractic? My work, torque release technique, was based on 95% pre-existing chiropractic. And I always, what's the difference between stealing something and building on the contributions of others? The difference is giving credit to the predecessors, the contributions of others, and not claiming it as yours, but adding your uniqueness to it, the variations the evolutionary refinements. And to me, Talsky Tonal Chiropractic is the basis of tonal chiropractic. Tonal chiropractic is a newer application of chiropractic, and we juxtapose it with mechanistic chiropractic. All forms of chiropractic are effective initially. It bothered me that mechanistic chiropractic, the only two things wrong with it is the belief that that's all there is. And secondly, the fact that it reaches a point of maximum benefit, leading to an evolutionary mistake called maintenance chiropractic. Maintenance is about preventing something from getting worse, but not about making it better. Tonal chiropractic is based upon the original discoveries of Daniel David Palmer, and I named it tonal. I brought tonal back into the chiropractic lexicon because that's what I could have called this work vibratory chiropractic, but I wanted to honor Daniel David Palmer, who incidentally died also early in his life, relatively speaking, in his 50s, and only 18 years after he discovered chiropractic, and 16 years after he started teaching it. And the book that was published after his death by his widow, they have chapters, but the chapters are really monographs that he wrote at different times. And once you get by the varied terminology he uses in each one, you can see where he was headed. He recognized that it was adverse spinal cord tension that was far more frequent and far more devastating than local spinal cord pressure. So that is what we're working with. And we're working with directly communicating to the nervous system. The adjustment is really the communication of corrective intent through touch rather than moving bones. And teaching, the nervous system learns from what's done to it. Teaching the nervous system how to get more out of continuing care. Empowering the body to do more and the chiropractor to do less. So my work is 95% mental, based on awareness and understanding. And not any great teacher could teach my work. So I'm thrilled to have Zachary Connor and Dr. Jeremy Fow, who have been concentrating and deepening in the work more and more. And Dr. Jeremy Fow is the master of application of this work. And Zachary at this point is the master of principles. And I know these doctors will continue to evolve the work. I'm not saying this work is frozen wherever I leave it. But once you have the principles and really depend on it, all the principles of chiropractic are derived from one principle. Chiropractic uses a deductive logic, not inductive. And deductive logic is based on a premise. And everything is deduced from the premise. And in chiropractic has a major premise, and it's called the major premise. And I don't want to end this without saying the major premise. The major premise of chiropractic is there is a universal intelligence which is constantly giving to all matter its qualities and characteristics, thus maintaining everything in existence. What does that have to do with chiropractic? Everything. So everything is derived from that one major premise. And guess what? We're designed to interrelate to the major premise. It's not something you learn and then do everything on your own. Where does intuition come from? Where does inspiration come from? Where does insight come from? It comes from universal intelligence. And one of the responsibilities of a chiropractor is to deepen in the understanding and connection with universal intelligence. And guess what? I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And that is a gift. Learning chiropractic is simple. It's just not easy. It requires keeping it simple. And that's what I've endeavored to do with the understanding. So if a principle is a principle, it never changes. If protocol is the way the application is applied. So there's a mechanistic protocol and there's a tonal protocol. And the protocol should rarely change. And the protocol I established for torque release technique is basically the protocol for Talsky Tonal Chiropractic. But technique should constantly evolve and be refined through deepening understanding and new discoveries. And that's what's happened. So same principles, same protocol, the application looks and feels entirely different. So it's the basis of tonal work. It's the basis for the future. Every chiropractor should take Talsky Tonal Chiropractic, regardless of what techniques they want to use. And the majority of people who take my work, even those who say they don't use the work, nobody can take my work and ever see things the same ever again.
Well, I think that's a really good place to close out on today. This is episode 425 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today was Dr. Marvin Talsky, who is more, we call him Papa Marv, and endearing name Papa Marv. Thank you for being our guest today. If people want to stay connected to you, do you have any websites that we can send them to?
Yeah. Well, first of all, people can call me or text me on that's my number one connection, 847-828-4108. And my website is, guess what? TalskyTonalChiropractic.com. Of course, one word. Talsky Tonal, Tonal, chiropractic.com.
Well, Papa Marv, thank you for being my guest today. It was a real pleasure to have you on episode 425. I'm going to close out by telling everybody this: you're just one story away. Keep hustling. And I look forward to seeing you very soon, Papa Marv, at one of your seminars.
Yes. Yeah. Zachary invited you, and I second the invitation.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time today. And I know you got a big day ahead of you. So have a great afternoon out there in Crystal Lake, Illinois. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.